What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It's the Earthmaster here on this Saturday night, November 19th, 2022. It's about 9:27 p.m. here along the West Coast in California. Latest earthquake shows a 4.5 coming in here around the Mediterranean area, it looks like. The latest quake up here on the globe. They have been seeing a little bit of seismic activity here over the last 24 hours. And I'm not for certain if the USGS is reporting it here. Seems to be a pretty common thing. Not seeing it up here on the map yet, but we'll check back on that here in a little bit. So that's being reported by the EMSC agency. Some movement up into the Alaska region within the last hour, 3.0. Way up north, we really haven't seen too much activity here recently. Last 7 days of activity. Doesn't show too much movement up here, so we got a little bit of adjustment going on into the extreme northern Alaska, also up here around the Beaufort Sea. This earthquake coming in earlier this morning, so definitely a little bit of seismic activity throughout the northern portions up here in areas we normally don't see. Alaska has been showing quite a bit of seismic activity in the past couple days here, and it looks like it's continuing here within the last 24 hours with still an ongoing swarm south of Fairbanks and a little bit more uptick in earthquake activity around the Denali area. The last 7 days, let's go all magnitudes here, and kind of see where these separate swarms are kicking up here south of Fairbanks, and there's definitely another one outside of Anchorage down here. Pretty good earthquake swarm kicking off here with a definitely a noticeable increase in activity, kind of shooting its way up into central Alaska, and now we're just starting to see some activity up to the north. So definitely watch this zone around the subduction area, the Gulf of Alaska subduction zone here. Keep a close eye on that area. Seeing a little bit more further movement here across the Aleutian Islands with a 4.2 coming in earlier this morning, along with a little swarm of activity here throughout the last 24 hours across the Aleutian Islands there. Further west, getting a little bit of activity as well into the northern end of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, 5.1 and a 4.4 kicking up here within the last 24 hours. Got about 23 to 30 kilometers deep on both of those earthquakes. And up here, or I should say down here from this region, still along the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, got a couple fours kicking off there. Somewhat deeper movement over the last 24 hours. The most recent one about 10 o'clock this morning into the area of the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, 143 kilometers deep. So no major movement yet, but we're definitely seeing a little bit of uptick, a little bit more noticeable activity along that trench zone. Across the Japan region, things are kind of quiet for now. Quick look at the EMSC model here, and not a whole lot going on across the areas of Japan. It looks like there's some older fours up here on the map, with most of the recent activity across areas of Taiwan southward through the Philippines, and that's where we've seen a 5.1 coming in earlier today, kind of late afternoon, early evening time frame. 72 kilometers deep here, just outside of Taiwan, and some movement throughout the Philippines area, not showing up here on the map due to the 4.0 threshold level, but definitely seeing some activity further down here into the Indonesia region with a pretty deep 4.4 coming in about 8 o'clock this evening, just an hour or so ago, a couple hours. About 285 kilometers deep here around the Indonesia region. Over here across the Samoa area, we did see this earthquake come in just a short time ago. 4.5 near the Samoa Islands region, 35 kilometers deep. And earlier, late last night, I should say, very early today, we've seen a 4.4 into the Fiji region, Tonga Trench at 585 kilometers deep. Some pretty deep movement there. Kermadec Trench down into New Zealand. Earlier this afternoon, a 4.2 coming in. This earthquake here, 257 kilometers deep, folks. What sits offshore? Well, that's the Hikurangi subduction zone. Got the Kermadec Trench up here north, and that kind of extends into the Hikurangi subduction zone. Kind of a very important area in terms of the plate dynamics here across the area. Just not 100% certain if this thing, how big of an earthquake this thing is capable of producing, but I'm sure it's pretty large. Either way, that earthquake definitely way down there into this area. Again, North Island, New Zealand. The rest of the area, let me check the earthquake model globe here. Looks like there's been a couple threes around some of that area of the North Island following that deep, super deep earthquake there. So it might be, actually there's quite a few fours in the mix here. Let's see here. Let me go over to the GeoNet servers real quick and check out what's going on here across the area of New Zealand. 6 hours ago, see, I don't even know if they're showing all these earthquakes up here. Let's go to all magnitudes. Showing the last couple earthquakes within the last few hours here, mostly twos across the area. Did have a 3.5 earthquake north of the North Island, New Zealand. That coming in 183 kilometers deep. And some other smaller activity. But where is the where's that 4-pointer at? Is GeoNet not mentioning it? That's kind of a little on the odd side. I'm not seeing it there. USGS definitely reporting that 4.2. Just came in earlier this afternoon, so a little odd. Either way, definitely want to watch this zone pretty closely. Some deeper movement taking place here across the entire region over the last week or so. We did see some surface earthquakes up here towards the subduction zone itself, but very minimal adjustment down through New Zealand. Still think that area is under quite a bit of strain. Russia area got a 4.3 coming in. That from late last night. That's just about ready to drop off the map here. Almost 24 hours old. And let's see what else we got here. Eastern Afghanistan. Got a couple earthquakes throughout the day today, including 4.7 further up northeast of here. A little bit of pressure gradients picking up in that region. Outside of the Cyprus area, seeing that 4.2 yesterday. Still kind of waiting on this this supposed earthquake here that was shown 4.5 in this area. It should be definitely being picked up across the USGS map, but it's not. So let me pull in the EMSC model here and see what we got for specifics. Stand by for just a second here while I key this up. I see this title kicking off. Let's see, just outside of Italy, it looks like pretty shallow earthquake. Let me bring in the interactive map here real quick and see what we got. Yeah, kind of out here into the sea area just off the coast of Italy. This is in that swarm. Of course, they did have somewhat of a larger earthquake in that region over the past, well, has it been really over 7 days? Let's check out the last 30 days or so. We did see a 5.6 coming in earlier in November. Looks like around the 8th time frame. And this activity we're seeing right now still kind of within that zone of aftershocks. And, of course, this could continue for a little while following that earthquake movement there off the coast of Italy. Further activity westward, not a whole lot going on across the Atlantic Ocean. The extreme south into the South Sandwich Trench, seeing a 5.1 earlier this afternoon at about 49 kilometers deep. This area has seen a little bit of uptick over the last 30 days, looking at about 18 earthquakes in the South Sandwich Trench area, with a 6.3 being the largest. Had a couple 6-pointers down there. This area has been relatively fairly active since that 8.1, I think it was 8.1 or 8.2 kicked off last year within this area. Last year was a pretty crazy event of large earthquakes. So far this year, let's go ahead and pull that up just for fun. I want to bring up maximum, well, let's go minimum, right? Minimum 7.0 and above. And we're just going to pull up, the activity so far this year. Stand by for just a second here while I key this in. We'll use the world and see how this plays out here. The last 7 pointers since the beginning of this year. Let's go ahead and see what we got. Largest magnitude. So far, we have not seen any 8.0 earthquakes this year. 8-pointers do... Oh, man, I'm trying to think how often they occur. I guess, on standard, it's supposed to be like one maybe every 2 or 3 years. But last year, we had 3 of them, if I remember right. We had one down into the South Sandwich Trench, into the Kermadec Trench up here, about midpoint, and also one in Alaska. So last year was a super active year for large earthquakes. This year, only 10 earthquakes of magnitude 7.0 and above. Wow, that's kind of hard to believe here. And I got those dates right, so little on the well, I can't really say quiet this year, but definitely not quite as active as last year. So looking at these zones here, definitely Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. This area should see some larger activity pretty much on any given year, and this is lacking for one, including last year, as far as anything above 7.0. The Aleutian Trench, even though we've seen that 8-pointer last year, look at that, very quiet in terms of 7.0 and above. West Coast, I think, I don't know. I think this area seems to always be skipped. There's like no major activity on here. Of course, we had, a few years back, we had the Ridgecrest earthquakes kicking up, but there's way more zones across the Pacific plate boundary here that have been primed for quite a while, and they're just locked. I mean, it's almost like they're fused together, which I don't think is possible. I mean, eventually it's going to crack down here across the southern portion of the state, and also up here along the Cascadia. I guess it's just not time yet. So, South America, another player in producing some major slip rate across the area. Slip rate meaning yearly accumulation of stress built up along the plate dynamics here, the subduction zone. Has seen one 7.2 earlier this year, back in May. Of course, we did see some a little bit of 6 activity here along the Peru-Chile Trench around Chile, outside of the Santiago area. And looks like, a couple different areas need to fill in, I believe, firmly. The Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, South America, even though we've seen some 6s, I think we still need to see a little bit further activity there in that region. And the Kermadec Trench down through New Zealand. It's kind of lacking some major activity, and that's one of our hot zones there. Mariana Trench as well. But look at Alaska, very quiet. All this adjustment here across Fiji, Tonga Trench area, deep and shallow earthquake activity. No adjustment here as far as larger movement goes. That's kind of crazy. So we'll definitely watch those couple zones there, folks. There's there's always a possibility of filling in those seismic gaps. Just a matter of when. Let's see. Look, whoa. Look, we got the USGS report in that earthquake finally. A 4.7 there. Looks like they're going to hold steady at that magnitude. Central Italy, reviewed by a seismologist. Again, just offshore at about 10 kilometers deep in that zone where we've seen the 5-pointer earlier this month. Not a whole lot of historical earthquake activity out here off the shore. Most of the movement is confined here to the mountainous regions into the Italy area along that plate boundary. All right, let's see. What else do we have cooking out here? Puerto Rico, Caribbean Plate area. Got, let's see what we got. A little bit of earthquake activity off the coast here of Nicaragua into the Middle America Trench, southern end, 4.1 at 35 kilometers deep, into Costa Rica. Is it Costa Rica? No, Panama. Seen that earthquake late last night, that 4.1 kicking up there, well inland. All right, let me take a look here at the states. Oklahoma, lighten up a little bit north of the OKC area. Looks like the Sooners there won, right, on their game. Seen a lot of stuff floating around on the social media page there. Not a big sports fan whatsoever, but looks like some Oklahoma sports fans are happy tonight. 2.6. See what we got out here. The Sooner, we're just talking about the Sooners there. Sooner Trend oil field south of Crescent. Checking out the satellite imagery here. Of course, got a massive river that runs across here. And looking at, there's some holding tanks there, but also some farmhouses within the region of these earthquakes. So it's hard to say exactly what's going on. But nearby, we got oil fields galore, it looks like, within the region near those earthquakes. Texas, 1 4-pointer early this morning when I was trying to sleep, about 2 o'clock in the morning. Been having some issues sleeping recently. Not for sure what's going on. Sometimes it comes and goes. I can sleep like a baby one night, and then some night it's like, man, what's going on here? Might as well just stay up. 4.0 near the Minotone area, Texas. That was from earlier this morning, like mentioned. Nothing further following that earthquake movement. In the Yellowstone National Park, there's nothing showing up here on the map. The "is this thing on site" is still not working, so these guys must be down for whatever reason. I think they were moving recently. Maybe they're moving their servers. So we go to check out the seismographs there at Yellowstone. This is the Wyoming area from the University of Utah. The seismograph stations here are in these triangles. And northwest corner of the park is the area that normally sees the earthquake activity. And this is the latest map here. Doesn't look like there's too much activity. A couple small spikes here across the region, but no major swarms to take note of there into the Yellowstone area. Pacific Northwest, relatively quiet. One earthquake right smack dab at the Mount Rainier area. 1.3, huh? All right, let's go ahead and check out the tremor map tonight. See what we got. Looks like about 38 epicenters of tremor around the Vancouver Island ranges, and then also down into portions of southern Oregon. Started getting hiccups all of a sudden. Not good. So not a major event going on there with the tremor. We are going to check out Mount Rainier and see where those two earthquakes are popping off, just off the cone area, just off the summit. A couple of small earthquakes. Let's go ahead and see what we got for the data around the Camp Sherman area. This one sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. And there's those earthquakes. I see a lot more than two. Do you guys see what I see? Let me make sure I blow this up here a little bit so we can, let's go to 175 there. I should be good. So, I'm not going to count all of these, but definitely see a lot more than two earthquakes here listed up on this seismograph. And throughout the day today, what do you guys see here? Quite a bit. Some further activity. So it looks like these bigger ones, let's see exactly what that is. 1.3. Let me check the time frame here. UTC time of 21:04. 21:04 UTC time. 21:04 would basically be right here. All right, so that is the 1.3 magnitude earthquake in question there. So these other earthquakes that are showing up here across the map, Much, much smaller, but still earthquake activity, right? That kind of looks like earthquake activity. This, not so much. That thing comes and goes every single day for some reason. I don't know what it is. But over the last couple hours, what do you guys see? Some further activity kicking up there around Mount Rainier. These are just minimal earthquakes, very small microquakes, no harmonic tremor, no major changes there to note across the area. I do want to pull up. I'm going to pull up the Mount Rainier. The GPS station here and see what we have. Let's see exactly. Oh, I got to get in the right state. I'm looking into Washington or into Oregon there. Ooh, man, it's just been a long day. I had a bunch of schoolwork to catch up on, folks. Never wait till the end. I can't do that ever again. 2014, my brain's just a little burned out on schoolwork right now. That's the latest on that station. Let me see what we got down here on the southeastern flank. This movement here that you're seeing on the graph, the sudden uplift across the north and east areas, is basically an instrument readjustment, either with the entire position of where this GPS station is positioned, or an antenna adjustment that's making that dramatic increase. And that happened back in 2000, looks like in the 2012 area. But the overall trend here of vertical displacement at Mount Rainier shows, let me zoom in here a little bit, looks like downtrend. I mean, over the years, definitely some downtrend. But in 2022, looks like it goes through these little cycles here. 2022 right here. Goes through these little cycles of ups and downs, and that's a pattern. If we were looking at some volcanic activity or some magma increasing below Mount Rainier, we would see this dramatically rise across the region. And I'm just not seeing that. So this is purely some earthquake activity around some faults or just in general deflation possibly of the area. It is around the south, or it looks like the eastern section here of Mount Rainier. The rest of the region looks pretty quiet. Off the coast of Oregon, did see that earthquake coming in about 4 o'clock this morning on the Pacific side of the plate boundary right here along the Blanco fracture zone. Northern California, south of Eureka, seeing a little bit of earthquake activity into the Petrolia area. Always wanted to check the Petrolia area out. I've been over there several times, but never really stopped there. 21 kilometers deep. That could be a subduction zone earthquake there into the Cascadia. Very extreme area of the Cascadia megathrust zone. Got a sleeping giant out here, folks. It's a it's a major, it's a mega quake zone, so to speak here. We're doing a couple of different topics here, natural hazards and disasters with the college class here. And earthquakes and hurricanes are what we are kind of on topic of right now. Subduction zone earthquakes. That's a big one up there in California, all the way up through the Vancouver Island ranges. Northern California, aside from that, looked pretty quiet. General movement around the Cobb Mountain area. See what we got. Mammoth Lakes looks pretty quiet as well. Some movement along the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault. Doesn't look like too much activity. We did see a 2.8 early this afternoon around the Templeton area, just off of the Oceanic Fault Zone. I believe this is a little thrust fault out here. Oceanic Fault Zone. And the Ridgecrest area kind of filling in just a little bit, 2.0 near the Little Lake region. What do we got for Southern Cal around this sleeping giant? This is another area that's going to produce a very, very large earthquake one of these days. 8.1 is expected. Potential magnitude here along the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault, the plate boundary. Not a whole lot going on right now. Just some small earthquakes off the Elsinore fault system. No major swarms, no major unusual activity to take note of across that region for now. Let's see, what else do we have here, folks? Let's check out the National Data Buoy Center. See if we got anything out here in event mode. I'm not seeing anything at all. Nothing suspicious. No uplift here. Remember a few months back, a lot of fear-mongering going on with this one of these stations out here around the Java Trench. There was like a, what was it, like a 50-meter uplift of the ocean, supposedly. Quite a few folks chimed in on that and took advantage of some people with the fear-mongering. That's not what happens here on this channel. We try to stick to basic facts, basic information, basic data, not errors in the in the instruments out here. But right now, everything looks pretty calm, pretty clear, folks. No tsunamis, no uplifting of the ocean floor. Let's see what else we got here. Let's check it out. Solar ham site. I think. Now, I'm not 100% certain here. Let me go to this detailed forecast and check it out here. UTC time, November 20th, between 12 and 1800 there, which puts us at about, well, let's see what we got. What do we got now? Looks like maybe a little bit later on today, or it's not today yet, but tomorrow afternoon and evening time frame, we could see some elevated conditions here. That's when they are expecting the high-speed solar wind that was flowing from this coronal hole up here to reach Earth. Right now, things are very calm across the KP index board and the auroras. Not a whole lot happening across the area. So we'll wait for later tomorrow. Current density, speed, temp, BZ components, all stable. Very, definitely not elevated across the area. Very low readings here across the solar wind stream. So nothing coming in at us yet. We'll know when that coronal hole hits us, if it hits us. Again, we may just have a glancing blow from that region. The sunspot here is looking a little bit more complex. It is rotating into view. We'll watch that pretty closely for some flaring in the coming days, in the next couple days here, as this rotates into Earth view, direct Earth view. And this other sunspot here, looking still a little bit dynamic. It may produce another flare. It did already produce a M flare earlier, early this morning, I should say. We had that actually M1.4 kick off from that regional sunspot. The current coronal hole activity, there goes this one kind of floating out, I shouldn't say floating out, but scooting out away from Earth, and we're left with sunspots and a whole lot of beautiful structures there on the sun. Overall threat right now looks like these guys have adjusted a little bit. 80% chance for a C flare, 25% chance for an M flare, 1% for X flare. No major proton events expected from these sunspots, but we'll watch it pretty closely. Again, this one right here, 3147, is looking pretty massive, and getting a little bit more complex there in its instability with the sunspot region right here. So we'll watch that beautiful, beautiful sunspot. Crazy to think that this thing is what keeps us alive. All right, let's see here. I believe that's about it. We check out Hawaii. Let me check out Hawaii. I can't remember if I covered that or not. It's been a long, long day. And looks like most of the activity kind of died off here. Only about 19 earthquakes or so over the last 24 hours, and the majority of that from this morning and late last night. So no major unusual activity around Mauna Loa, Kilauea, or the southeastern flank there around Pahala. Things just kind of as is for now. All right, guys. Have a good night. Stay safe out there. And pretty crazy. What do we got? 1.3 coming into the West Coast right now. Pretty crazy world out there. I don't know if it can get any crazier or not. I guess it could. Just got to kind of roll with the punches, so to speak, and be prepared for anything. Alrighty. Yeah, we'll chat you guys a little bit later. It's about 10 o'clock here. About ready to probably call it a night. And we'll catch you guys sometime tomorrow morning for the update. Tomorrow morning, Sunday morning already. End of the weekend already. These weeks are just coming and going. Crazy. All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll catch you a little bit later. Peace out.